Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 9:48. We're here for about another 10 minutes. Kevin O'Sullivan coming in. He's in for Julie Hartley-Brewer all this week. I'm delighted to say Robert Jenrick is here, the Shadow Justice Minister. Robert, nice to see you.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Home of Common Sense. You've got a big piece of The Sun today. Headline, there's nothing racist about caring for your family's safety. And you show, interestingly enough, Bournemouth, where there was a demonstration. There's demonstrations going on all over the country about migrant hotels, about people not being happy, about the dispersal of migrants either in hotels or in homes. I actually read a piece, as I'm sure you did, in Sunday Times, that there's now a group of people who are not really calling themselves vigilantes, but that's kind of what they are, walking around Bournemouth of an evening because things are so bad down there. I mean, how did we get here?
Yeah, well, I went on Sunday evening to the protest in Epping because I was driving into London and I wanted to show my support for the residents there. I'd been watching it on the news, I've been speaking about it on the media, but I felt it was important that I went and said to them that I stand behind anyone who is peacefully protesting about this. If it was in my neighbourhood, I would be doing the same. And the people I met there were mums and dads, grandparents, people of all ages and walks of life, just normal, decent people, fair-minded, patriotic people who are very worried about the impact on their community and their families. And some of the stories, Mike, that I heard were very arresting. There was a single mum, who had 3 teenage daughters, and she'd come home the other day and found a pair of workman's boots on the doorstep, and she'd gone in and asked her daughters, where did these come from? And the oldest daughter, who was just about to go to university, had gone out and bought them because she wanted people in the neighbourhood, like the illegal migrants, to think that there was a man in the house, because she was so worried about the safety of her mum and her 2 younger daughters. There was another mum there who was with her teenage daughter, and the school had told them to walk a different way through Epping because they were worried about illegal migrants and the potential for crime, presumably sexual crimes against young girls. Look, this cannot go on.
No.
This cannot go on. And I think people like that have been completely ignored by Keir Starmer, by the whole Westminster elite, frankly.
Because Keir Starmer, by the way, hasn't been to Epping, and neither has Yvette Cooper, and neither have they gone anywhere, because when I spoke to some of the mums in Epping a few weeks ago when it all started, I said, what would your message be to Keir Starmer? And she said, just come down, please, and talk to us and find out why we're upset. And they haven't done it.
Well, it's worse than that, because actually some Labour politicians are smearing people for going to the protest. I turned on the TV yesterday morning and heard Jonathan Ashworth, the former Labour Member of Parliament and senior sort of advisor to the Labour Party, saying that it was wrong of me to go and join the protests. I don't know if you saw, the BBC was saying that I was xenophobic.
Yes.
Basically, these people are being...
That was Thought for the Day.
That was Thought for the Day on Radio 4. These people are being smeared as racist or even far right for joining these protests. But the vast majority of people I spoke to, in fact everyone I spoke to, were just everyday people seriously worried about their family's safety and the effect this was having on their neighbourhood. And I think we should all be supporting them if they do this.
And it's happening all over the country. I mean, I don't know if it's like in your constituency, but almost every part of the country that I speak to tells me that they've got a problem either with migrants hanging around the town centre or in a hotel. We did a story this morning with a Portsmouth councillor. 55 homes in Portsmouth have been apparently commissioned by the local council and stroke the Home Office as HMOs, as you know, houses of multiple occupancy. They're putting 8 to 10 men in each of them in the community, and that's not the answer, is it?
No. Well, look, that's going to be the next dimension to this, that instead of putting people in hotels, they're going to be put in HMOs. So instead of being in the Bell Hotel in Epping, they might be in the house next door to you.
Right.
And yeah, the Home Office might think that that is more discreet, that kind of covers up the issue, but actually it brings it even closer to home for people. It means that you're living cheek by jowl, maybe a house becomes unsellable, life becomes much more difficult.
Also, I was looking...
And although it's very imperfect, you know, these hotels, sometimes they have security, there's a degree of control at least. In the community, there's none of that at all. No. And people are being told there isn't a link with crime, but I'm afraid that's not true. No. Because in the last 100 days, there have been around a dozen allegations of sexual assault. In Epping, if you take that as the most prominent example at the moment, there have been 2 serious allegations of sexual assault. People have been charged who were residents of the hotel. We'll see what happens when that eventually goes to court. But there is a serious issue here, and we shouldn't be surprised, because if you've got very large numbers of predominantly young men about whom we know absolutely nothing, many of them are coming from countries with very different attitudes towards women and girls to our own country, frankly backwards attitudes, it's not surprising this leads to more crime, particularly more sexual crime. And that's why we've got to end this, haven't we?
We have.
We've got to bring this to a close. We know how to do it. Starmer has got to learn the lessons of the recent past, change the law, leave these outdated human rights treaties, and deport all the illegal migrants.
Yeah, 173,000 now. You know, people used to say years gone by when the Tories were in, oh, it's a relatively small number, which it is compared to some of the...
Well, that's like the size of a small city.
But well, it's quite a big city, actually. 173,000.
I mean, this is a very large number of people. And remember, each one of those, if they stay, is likely to cost the British taxpayer around £500,000.
Right.
That is money that should be being spent on hard-pressed Brits.
Exactly.
And it's going to have a massive impact on some communities. So it's got to end. The patience of the public has completely snapped on this now. That's why people are out on the streets. And they're not being unreasonable. These are normal people voicing legitimate concerns. And I, for one, completely support them and stand with them. And I think more politicians should do the same.
Meanwhile, Keir Starmer's about to chair a coalition of the willing phone call, apparently, this morning, about Ukraine. You know, he needs to, as people have said to me this morning, this guy needs to get his backside home and fix the problem of his own borders.
Well, they're both important. They're both important issues.
But there's one more important than the other, and that's our own country.
Exactly. And what is the most important thing of all is securing our own borders.
Yes, exactly.
What is the first priority of the government? Frankly, of our armed forces. It's securing our own borders, isn't it? Before we start to be concerned about other people and their issues.
Now, Reform UK have put out a video just shortly before you came in today, actually, of you, I think, in 2022, talking about migrant hotels. Have a look.
We have procured more hotels very rapidly, and more are coming on board literally every day. More hotels have been coming online almost every month throughout the whole of this year. So Suella Braverman and her predecessor, Priti Patel, were procuring more hotels. What I have done in my short tenure is ramp that up and procure even more.
Presumably this was when you were immigration minister in the last government, but one, I suppose. They say you don't want anyone to see this, but you've just seen it, so what can you tell us?
Yeah, well, they've edited this video and they've stripped out all the context, which is fine. That's what happens in politics. But let me explain. I was a couple of days into my tenure as the immigration minister, and I walked into the Home Office and it was a bin fire. It was a total disaster zone. And there was a camp in Kent, Manston, full of illegal migrants, which was overflowing. There was a very serious risk of riots, of disorder there, and we had to get some of those people out. So we took on some hotels to get some of the people out of the situation in Manston. But by the end of my tenure, I was the first immigration minister to actually be closing the hotels. And in fact, I had brought forward 100 hotels for closure, and more followed shortly after as a result of the changes that I made. Remember, under my tenure as immigration minister, the number of people coming across on small boats actually fell. It fell by over a third. No prior and no subsequent immigration minister has that record. Of course, that isn't good enough. We want to close all these hotels, don't we?
Did you close them
end a lot of them
and kick the people out of the country, though, or did you close them and move them somewhere else?
Well, the reason we were able to close them was because fewer people were coming in. And yes, and we did increase the number of people being deported, which had got down to a very low level. We brought it right up again, particularly deals like the Albanian deal, which saw the number of people being turfed out of the country massively increase. Ultimately, I chose to resign because the way to resolve this issue is to actually hive out these human rights laws like the ECHR and deport people. And I wasn't able to persuade Rishi Sunak, the then Prime Minister, and the others who were in Cabinet at the time to do what was necessary. And so I said, you know what, I'm not sticking with this. I'm going to go to the backbenches and make this argument in Parliament, which is what I did. I brought forward legislation, I marshalled like-minded Conservative members of Parliament who wanted to support me, and we made the argument. What I've done since is say very clearly that the way to fix this, not just to deal with the symptoms about, you know, the hotels, the HMOs, that isn't the answer to this. It's about how do you actually resolve it once and for all, and that is by deporting each and every person. And I'm going to keep on making that argument. I'm convinced that's the way to fix this. Not some of the things, frankly, that Reform have been saying. I saw Richard Tice the other day saying there should be some sort of processing centre in Calais where the world and his wife can turn up, make a claim to a life in the UK, and then we bring some of them over to the UK. No, I don't want any of these people coming to the UK whatsoever. The answer is to have a very clear deterrent. You come here, you'll be detained, you'll be deported. Yeah. End of story.
Well, that's, of course, what Yvette Cooper said they started doing 12 days ago. Let's have a quick look at what she actually said she would be doing.
We'll provide regular updates for the public at every stage. That's why I'm confirming today that the pilot has now started and the first migrants who arrived on the small boat are now in detention. The transfers to immigration removal centres are underway as we speak, so we won't provide operational details at this point that criminal gangs can simply use and exploit.
Now, we've only got about a minute. We don't know how many they detained. They haven't deported anyone. She hasn't given us any regular updates in 12 days. What's going on?
It's a total farce. In fact, Mike, I actually went to the camp at Lune Plage, the so-called Jungle 2 camp, and I asked some of the migrants there, had they heard of one in, one out? No one had heard of it. In fact, no one had even heard of Yvette Cooper or Keir Starmer, frankly. So this is having no effect. It's a total farce. It's just deflection, isn't it? It's to make us, the British public, think they're doing something when they're not doing anything at all. They know in their hearts what they've got to do, but they're not prepared to do it because they're so hidebound to these international rules and conventions. Leave the European Convention on Human Rights, change the law, deport every single one of these migrants, not a tiny fraction, which is what they're proposing. Listen, it's just another farce.
That's exactly what people want to hear, and it's exactly what people want to see being done. We're out of time. Robert, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. We're out here for another day. Back tomorrow at 6 a.m.